So the CW's latest superhero show, Batwoman, aired just this past Sunday, and believe it or not, but it actually wasn't that bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't exactly the greatest thing since sliced bread either, but it definitely wasn't as cringy or awkward as the trailers would have had you think either. For me, I'd say it's about the same level of quality as season 3 of The Flash. There's definitely room for improvement, and you're hoping the finale won't end up being crap, even though there's a good chance it probably will, but overall, there's some good moments here and there. For example, that whole mystery about where the Earth 1 version of Bruce Wayne went seems like it'll be pretty interesting. At least it seems like it'll be a better version of what they did in Supergirl. Oh yeah, he's definitely around here somewhere, but he won't help out with anything because reasons. Seriously though, we've gotten references to Batman and Bruce Wayne throughout the Arrowverse before Batwoman popped up in Elseworlds, but last year was really the first time we've ever heard about him possibly being missing. Honestly, before this first episode came out, I just kinda assumed Batman was dead or something, if only because it'd be an easy way for the writers to keep him off the show and explain why he isn't still kicking ass as Batman. And since we know that his rogues gallery, like Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, and the Joker, all exist on Earth 1, it definitely seemed possible that one of them managed to get lucky at some point off camera and just took him out. But aside from that being a really dumb theory, I mean, you think Batman being dead would have been big news and convinced all the skeptics like Oliver that he was actually real.
You don't believe Batman's real?
He's not real. He's an urban legend concocted by the Gotham Police Department to scare criminals.
Kate and her new friend Luke pretty much confirmed like halfway through this first episode that Bruce is actually alive.
I know you know where Bruce is. Call him and tell him that I am looking for someone.
If Bruce wanted to come home,
He would.
I don't know about you guys, but it definitely sounds like Luke knows that Bruce is still hanging around somewhere. Otherwise, why wouldn't he have just said that Bruce was dead earlier and kept Kate from messing up his hand? Even if they didn't make it sound like Bruce was alive in this episode, we did hear at Comic-Con that it was possible that we'd see Batman in a future episode of Batwoman, which definitely seems a little hard to do if he was dead. So, okay, if Earth 1 Bruce is still alive, then where is he exactly? If this Batman's anything like the one from the comics, then whatever reason Bruce had to take off and leave the city behind must have been a good one, right? Well, maybe it was, especially considering the state the Arrowverse was in around the time Bruce left Gotham. When was that exactly? Well, it's already been confirmed multiple times that Bruce disappeared around 3 years before the start of Batwoman.
3 years ago when Batman mysteriously disappeared.
And given how we know Kate finding the Batcave and using Batman's stuff must take place in 2018, since the first episode of her show takes place just a little while before the Elseworlds crossover, this would mean that Bruce disappeared sometime in 2015. So what happened on Earth 1 at that time? Well, let's see. Supergirl was still flying around Earth 38, so nobody cares. The Legends didn't exist yet, but we'll get back to them in a little bit. Barry was just starting to figure out stuff about Zoom and the multiverse, so unless Batman headed over to Central City, accidentally fell into a breach, and got stuck on Earth 66 or something, I don't think this really has anything to do with what happened to him. That just leaves us with Arrow. Or more specifically, Season 3 of Arrow. Remember towards the end of the season how Oliver managed to kill Ra's al Ghul and save the city? Ra's is traditionally a Batman villain, so maybe news of him dying got to Bruce and he took off to smooth things over with the League or something like that. I'm not entirely sure why that would keep him from coming back to Gotham almost immediately afterwards, but at least it's better than thinking Bruce ran off because he and Talia have a kid together in this universe and he just wanted to go be the best dad ever. There's zero evidence of that, but apparently that's a theory some people have. That having been said, there is another explanation for Batman's disappearance we could look at here, although, fair warning, it is a little bit of a stretch. If you remember in the comics, there was a storyline involving Bruce hopping through time and getting in all sorts of adventures after being blasted by Darkseid's Omega Beams in 2009's Final Crisis number 6. Now, I'm not saying that this Bruce already squared off with the Lord of Apocalypse off camera, but I am saying that there's a precedent for a time-traveling Batman. Maybe something happened to him before the start of Batwoman and he'll end up needing the help of the Legends to get back home. It could happen. Maybe. Depending on how exactly they want to say he got sent backwards in time in the first place, or even if the writers want to get that crazy explaining where Bruce had been this whole time anyway. That having been said though, I highly doubt the Batwoman writers are going to want to get into that level of crazy so soon. Hell, even The Flash waited 6 seasons to show Barry punching a black hole with the Flash Gordon soundtrack playing in the background. So, okay, if it's not crazy amounts of time travel or traveling around the world, then what did happen to Bruce? Well, honestly, I'm starting to wonder if the show's been bringing in elements of the 90s Nightfall storyline, when Bruce was forced to stop being Batman after a huge fight with Bane resulted in Bruce's back being broken. While he was taking time away from the costume to heal, Bruce trusted Jean-Paul Valley, who later goes on to be Azrael, to take over the mantle of Batman and apparently turn it into one of the most 90s things you've ever seen. Holy shit, you could literally cut yourself from all the edge in this picture. But seriously though, I know it's a little early to say for sure that's what happened, but we may already have some proof that this is the case. For example, think back to some of the Easter eggs we got in the Elseworlds crossover. On a shelf in Arkham Asylum, you can see what looks like Bane's mask sitting with all the supervillain stuff, obviously meaning that the luchador-looking supervillain is somewhere on Earth 1. And in Bruce's office, Kate recognized that Martha's pearl necklace had been moved out of place on the shelf, something Luke never mentioned that he or anyone else in the building did. It may be a bit of a stretch, but it does seem like the pearls were moved on purpose, so maybe Bruce did it while he was resting up somewhere in Gotham, knowing Kate would recognize that something was off and eventually discover the Batcave. We haven't heard anything about Robin or Nightwing yet, so assuming they don't exist in this universe, then Bruce passing the Batmantle on to a trusted family member does make at least some sense. I'm not entirely sure how he would have known that Kate would ever come back to the office, or how she could be sure that the necklace was in the wrong spot, but that's just details. I'm sure the writers will work it out in later episodes. As far as how we know Bruce might still be hanging around Gotham, well, believe it or not, but we can actually get some clues for that by looking at the timeline for Earth 1. Now, I'll be doing a full timeline video at some point, but really the only part we need to focus on today is the start of Batwoman and how it relates to the 7th season of Arrow. In the 5th episode, titled The Demon, Oliver meets back up with Talia, who mentions running into an old enemy.
What are you doing here?
I ran afoul of an old foe in Gotham.
Now, sure, you could argue that she was referring to Batwoman, but it doesn't seem like the timelines add up here. We know the start of Batwoman is about 3 episodes or so before the Elseworlds crossover, and if we assume that each episode of Batwoman takes place about a week between each other, as they seem to do most of the time in every other Arrowverse show, then that puts Kate returning to Gotham sometime around the middle of November, about the same time or after Oliver meets up with Talia and Slapside. Even if I missed something though, and Kate does come back early enough to fight Talia and lock her up, it still seems a little early for her to be Talia's old enemy, don't you think? Either way, I'm fairly certain Talia was referring to Bruce, who's maybe going through the Arrowverse version of the post-Nightfall story, when Bruce went through training from Lady Shiva to get his combat skills back. Maybe instead of fighting random ninjas this time, Bruce put himself through fighting some specific, more League of Assassin-ish ninjas instead. It's possible, right? Well, either way, I'm just hoping we get more definitive answers as this first season keeps moving forward. But anyways guys, that's my take on what all might have happened to Bruce Wayne before the start of Batwoman. If you guys agreed with anything I said in this video, or you have your own thoughts you want to throw out there, then go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, then go ahead and click that like button, and if you're new, maybe consider clicking that subscribe button too. I've also got links to my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Patreon in the description. You should probably check those out too. And if you want to see more of my content, then you can click the link to my last video. It's right there in the middle of your screen. Alright, and I will see you all next time.